Okie dokie. Great for everybody to come along. As all know, I'm Josh Marsden. I'm the Director of Active and Thriving, a digital behaviour change company. And this is Wellbeing Live, where every month we get an exciting guest on to speak about their experience in the mental health and wellbeing space and general corporate human resources space as well. So today's guest is Richard Wortley. He's the Enterprise Lead for Teamgage. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Great to be here, Josh. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're really excited to chat to Richard as he's really passionate about enabling healthy, connected and dynamic workplaces. And he believes that technology plays a really important role today, more so than ever before. So we've only got 15 minutes, Richard, so let's dive straight in.
Yeah.
So from your experience, what have you seen organizations do well in fostering connection and engagement at that team level?
Yeah, it's a big question. So I think just as the backdrop, we work with all different kind of industries, sizes of organization, but we've definitely seen a few trends here. So, on the whole, I think we can all relate to, a lot of challenges at the moment in how we work, a lot of uncertainty, working from home and remote, and a lot of us, especially our customers, are thinking about, that return to office phase, that transition. What is that going to look like? But I suppose if I think about the organizations who've adapted or matured the fastest in the last 12 months, there's a couple of things that probably stand out. I'd say the first one is they really think, it sounds obvious, but they really think about the team dynamics. And what I mean by that is, it's not about slapping a survey out and understanding, every 6 months as an organization what we do. That's really not going to cut it. Things change so fast. So these organizations really think about every team is almost different. The considerations of how they work, what their challenges are different as well. So the other part is really thinking about our teams. So, the 6 or the 10 people that we work with most in our working lives, they influence us massively, how we feel about our employer, our business, how we feel waking up, coming to work every single day. So, and I think, COVID and remote working has just really doubled down on that feeling of you're part of a team, and that team really determines your mindset and how you feel about your work. So, so that's certainly one thing. The second thing is organizations that have adapted the fastest have got some kind of a system, like a regular check-in system. And what that means is that people can talk more dynamically about what's working well, what's not working well, what are the things that we need to do better. And it's that kind of regular kind of improvement or adaptation, which has been really, really vital and welcomed by so many teams and employees that we've worked with. I think we can all, openly accept that we're still learning our way through hybrid working. We don't know all of the impacts yet, but being able to, I suppose, iterate and adapt has been really, really key. So those are probably the two big things that we've seen in our customers.
Thanks, Richard. A fair bit to take in there. I guess one of the interesting ones from your first point is every team is unique and different. What about those teams that maybe are struggling from a cultural point of view? Are there any things that you've been learning over the last 18 months or so that does give them a step in the right direction for creating that positive level of connection and engagement if they haven't been able to do so previously?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think of the Lencioni quote, the one size fits no one. I think that was one of his quotes from one of his book, and it's so true. All of us face different levels of challenges, but I think for those who are really, really challenged, it's about really being careful about what do we want to measure? What are the areas that we can lean into, that we can influence? I think we're all often guilty of, trying to solve the world and do everything at once. So our approach with a lot of teams is really to focus in on one or two kind of smaller areas. What are the quick wins that you can get as a team by focusing on those things, and then move on to the next? So for some teams, who are really, really struggling, it's just focusing on workload management. or it's focusing on, communication within the team, and get that to a certain point where we can then start to focus on things beyond some of the basics. So it's really about, having feedback in the right places, in areas that are simple, something we can do something with, it's in our control. And yeah, it's realistic based on where we're at as a team at this point in time.
Absolutely. Something we've seen a lot of too is if that team leader or managers play such a critical role in the success of that team and their performance and how they feel as part of the broader organization. So I'm interested to know if you've been doing anything or have any recommendations around how organizations can actually support really meaningful and effective conversations, especially around that mental health and wellbeing lenses also.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think as leaders, we have so much heaped on our shoulders. And in the last 12 months, that weight is even heavier. So I think there's a few things that organizations can really do well here is think about the support that they can give to leaders. So the key thing is these conversations. Like, we need to encourage really timely conversations. So, give leaders some data, give them some feedback, help them understand what things they need to be talking about. We're not mind readers, and do it in a really timely way. And I think the other thing is to try to create some connection or us between the team leaders and the team members. So a lot of what we do is about surfacing the what can we do better as a team, and not what does my team leader need to do for me, or what is expected of management. So I think as organizations start to change the narrative from, us as in leaders being the bottleneck and having to come up with all the solutions, and start kind of empowering teams to think about solutions for themselves with their leaders at the same time. And I think that's a much more inclusive, solutions-focused way of doing things. So something we've done in the last 6 months is launch something called Teamgage Academy. And that is purely about empowering leaders, giving them the confidence to have some of these conversations, to kind of include their team members in some of these conversations about what are the solutions. What's the one thing that's going to help us improve our workload management this week? Or what's one thing that's going to just lift the energy that we think will, really make a difference this month? So I think the one thing I'd say there is, empower those conversations, make sure leaders have the confidence, to talk about that stuff regularly.
Yeah, really important. I guess one of the things that when we first started talking, Richard, was really about that taking, I guess, the textbook, how we should be having these conversations with the team members, and then actually applying it into the workplace, so that we can see some sort of tangible changes. Yeah. I'm just thinking back of some of the organizations I've worked in and thinking about the timeliness of team meetings and one-on-ones and or lack thereof. I've had examples where people have had a check-in with their manager once a year or less, So what do you consider timely for getting the teams together to work on these concerns?
Yeah, again, a really good question. And again, I think it's not a one-size-fits-all, but, we generally look at whether it's a health group or, a customer-facing group, non-customer-facing group. We kind of think about what is your flow naturally anyway, in terms of how often do you get together? And the answer is obviously varied. But for a lot of our customers, it might be monthly, it might be fortnightly, every 6 weeks. One example comes to mind is a health group that we started working with. I don't think they had any regular check-ins beyond maybe an operational meeting every month. So we actually started to create a fortnightly rhythm, which was new for them. And I know there were a few rolled eyes when we started the process with them. But by nailing the right questions in the right areas, which was around improving their collaboration as a group, they really quickly got into that. And that was about 18 months ago. And the awesome thing, example from that is when we went and had a chat to them a few months ago, they actually have daily stand-ups now as a group. So it went from something that was completely alien, this idea of having a regular check-in as a group and being a stretch to do it every fortnight, So something that you can't take away from them now. They'll have 10 minutes every morning just to check in on what's the big thing I need to do today, what's the thing that I need help with. And that's something that we do as well in the business here. I think about, for us, we do it every Friday in the afternoon. We'll just say, how's the week gone? What's something that we need to focus on next week? And I do remember, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, there was a really powerful comment about, we sometimes get requests or communication out of hours. What do we do with this? Like, what's the expectation in terms of out of hours work? And there was so many nodding heads in the room at that question. And we had about 10 minutes just talking about that as a team and as a business. And I remember so many of us walking away with real clarity, smiles on our faces in terms of, yeah, that was my question as well. And I was wondering kind of whether to ask that or what. So I think it's just a really powerful example of, if you make the time for these things, the questions will come out, and questions that are usually on the minds of many people in the teams. And it's just little things that can make a big difference often when it comes to how you work as a group. So yeah, there's no set time, as I say, but I think it's just doing that little and often, whether it's fortnightly, monthly. That seems to be the thing that works for a lot of our customers. Absolutely,
Richard. It's probably a matter of most people probably increasing the cadence if they feel they're not having those meaningful conversations. It's a little bit of a monotonous process in the team meetings, but probably they're not comfortable enough to ask the questions that are going to make change.
And I think it's chicken and egg, Josh, isn't it? You need to have something to discuss, right? If those conversations are empty and hollow and no one speaks up, then I can completely understand. And so I think it's about being very intentional and systematic about that regular check-in process. So you've always got something to talk about, or something to raise or bring up kind of before or during those conversations. So yeah, with a bit of thought, they can be really, really powerful.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think we're definitely in agreement that meaningful conversations are the key to team and organizational success. So based on the work that you've been doing for Teamgage, how does technology help enable that success?
Well, I think it's probably that last bit. It's about, being systematic about it. I think we read a lot about, check-ins and all these things, and we all kind of go, yes, that's absolutely the right thing to do. But then we get busy, it drops off, it doesn't happen quite, it doesn't continue quite how we'd hoped. So I think the technology part is making sure that everyone, whether they're in the office, at home, out on site, everyone gets to input into that conversation. It also creates a really regular cadence. And for leaders and management, we can see, is this a problem for the whole business, just one department, for our whole team, or just part of our team? So it just gives us that really quick understanding of where our teams are at more broadly. The other thing it does is it allows the organization to work on certain things that are, I suppose, recurring issues across the whole business. And it allows the teams to address their own things that they need to address in the moment simultaneously. So I think a big part of the technology is about making it a really inclusive process for everyone in the organization, no matter where they work, how they work, what technology or devices they have access to. A lot of the health and the blue collar and aged care customers that we work with are really dispersed. And historically, large portions of those workforces have been kind of excluded from anything more than a once-a-year survey. So I think it's about harnessing the technology to make this a proactive, really inclusive opportunity for the business and teams to improve bit by bit.
That's right. We need to go beyond the 12 monthly, 18 monthly surveys and actually act in real time. Like, you get all this amazing data, but the organization could have had 3 different change cycles in that period as well. So you're kind of back to square one when you analyze it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So right at the end, Richard, so I just want to give you an opportunity just to share how people can find out more about the work you're doing in Teamgage, or anything else you want to add.
Yeah, look, please maybe jump onto our website at teamgage.com. There's some customer examples there, the health one that I just spoke to. And I think, again, I think I mentioned Academy before, but doing this really well is a blend of the technology and the skills. And I think we have to be really honest about that. So again, Academy is something that's fairly new. It's in the moment kind of coaching and support for leaders to really get the best out of these type systems and engage their teams. So again, probably just encourage people to check out what we're doing on the website and the customer stories. I think that will kind of bring some of this more to life in terms of what they're working on and they're doing in their organizations.
Appreciate that, Richard. And we'll put your details through our socials as we advertise this session as well, so people will be able to grab them there also. So thanks everybody for joining in. I hope you're all having a great day, and yeah, we'll see you next month. Thanks again, Richard.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
All right, bye everyone.
Yeah.